you learn pretty quickly that even the most intimidating of figures or people with a lot of experience, they
Sure.
still need a director. That's the director's job. And you lose that anxiety pretty quick. I remember I directed Bruce Campbell too, and people had even kind of warned me ahead of time. They were like, he's a salty dog. I was like, okay. And then he was nothing but delightful.
What's going on, everybody? It's Ted again with the Countdown City Geeks, and we got a very special video for you guys. I am joined by my colleague, first off, Brian Ortiz. Say hello, Brian.
Hello, everybody.
And we have a very special guest. He is a fantastic social media presence. He is a force to be reckoned with, and he is also the writer, director, and star of Onyx the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls. Please welcome Andrew Browser. What's going on, Andrew?
Hello. Thanks for having me, y'all.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely. What a tremendous occasion. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to try and fit it in all this short amount of time that we have with you. But first off, congratulations on all you've accomplished. I know this must be sort of a milestone that you've been sort of trekking towards your entire life. But first off, tell us, like, what is your mindset right now? You've already had your premiere of the film. People can find it on Screenbox shortly. What is your mindset? What are you going through right now?
Well, I don't. Brian can attest to this. I don't do much slowing down, and so I I think I'm getting close to being up for slowing down, maybe a little bit. I don't know. I'm definitely trying to reflect and just let it soak in that this has been an accomplishment and that it is something kind of worth taking some space around, because I tend to just go 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 go. But to be honest, I think this film, and especially being accepted to the festivals that we were accepted to, and having the run of festival screenings that we had, and then even having a theatrical event, all of that was honestly a lot more than I expected. So I feel very, very appreciative, because it's almost forced me into a position where I have to recognize, okay, it did its job and maybe then some. You could relax. I'm used to things not quite doing what I wanted them to do. So I'm always trying to go a little bit, but this one really did work out higher than my expectations were for it. So my brain is like, you can't argue with this. You got to take a little breather.
The filmmaker's brain never has a chance to breathe. That's just how how it's wired. There's just no way.
I know.
It's always the big question after you succeed, you go to Sundance, you have huge film premieres, and one person comes up, you say, great, what's next?
I know.
Always the typical question.
I know. And I've got ideas, and I'm excited about ideas, but yeah, I'm feeling that this was the culmination of over 10 years of work just on this character. I mean, I've been making videos since I was whatever. I've been acting since I was 8 and making videos since I was like 13 or whatever. So, but this film is the culmination of over 10 years of focusing on this character. So it's been a push.
One of the best things and opportunities that I was given is the chance to work with you over several years. And I started off as a fan, someone that you tricked completely, because you showed up on my Facebook and I was like, what's this Arby's guy? What is this? And then learning that it was fake, finding out that it was you, following your work. It's been this amazing journey to see your process. And I've been given the opportunity to work behind the scenes and see that process as well. But there's very few creators, actors, and filmmakers who have taken a character that you have that has started off in this digital realm and get to take it to film. There's a very small category of people who have done that, and people who have done it quite successfully. And I could go on and how well I think you transposed this character from the web to the film. Was that transition, did you find that transition difficult, whether it be in the writing process or the acting process? Because what I saw felt extremely accomplished, which was you expanded that character beyond just the frame that we're used to. Was that journey difficult as a filmmaker, going from here to there?
I think if I had been given the opportunity to make an Onyx feature, even 5 years ago, it might have been more difficult, because I think there were different pockets, and you were witness to some of these pockets where, Brian, I wouldn't know what to do with the character next, but I knew I wanted to keep him alive. So maybe I'll just improvise a vlog in my office for 40 minutes and ask you to cut it down to 9 minutes. And there were times where Onyx was just kind of being kept alive because I loved him, but I didn't know what format or what context to place him in next narratively. And by the time it came to sitting down and writing this script, I didn't really have that question. I felt very much like I knew what I wanted to do with him and where I wanted to go with him. But I think that was because of the time and because of those ups and downs, and living in the space of, I don't know, does Onyx have a public access show? Does Onyx exist in a supernatural world where it's, it's like his Fright Night, or I wrote a pitch for one where he's visited by an alien that is kind of like a Terminator parody. I've been all over the place, but when it finally came time to write this, I had a clear take on what I wanted to do.
I think part of the challenge that you met, and something that I could really appreciate, is that you are juggling multiple genres at once. And there's like no point in time where this kind of transcends into this parody realm. It's honestly just a fun, whimsical horror comedy. Growing up, I had one of those that I loved, Ernest Scared Stupid. And I know Jim Varney is someone that you've talked about in previous interviews. How difficult is it to sort of make sure you tread that fine line to where it doesn't come off completely sort of as a parody or just as a cheesy joke?
That was something I was very conscious of, because there is something to Pee-wee and Ernest that weirdly they're not, somebody could say they're parody films, but I don't think they are parody. I think they let themselves be grounded, and the character might be navigating known tropes and reacting to known tropes in their own unique way. But yeah, they're not making light of the situation or undercutting things to where it's Scary Movie, where everybody is, a cartoon character or Looney Tunes. And so I just knew that was the tone I wanted to strike. And I explained that to even all of our cast, but everybody really got it, that we wanted to have a kind of grounded emotional sensibility in an absurd world, but that we're never going to wink to camera. No one's ever going to get stabbed and make a joke about it and be like, that hurt. There's consequence and there's stakes. And even Jeffrey, who played Bartok, that was actually one of his first questions, because he didn't want it to be a parody and just all a goof. And he said, are you going to play this straight when it's the right decision to play it straight? Even down to how we were going to shoot the puppets. He asked, are you going to shoot them to actually try to sell them and make them look cool and make them feel believable? Like, it's not a bit that there's puppets, right? So he got it too. Everybody really got it. I didn't have to do much calibrating on set as far as, that feels a little too winky or meta. Everyone was on the same page.
Follow up to that, how much pressure does that add when you have Jeffrey Combs, like, making sure that you're staying true to the story and the tone of the film?
A lot of pressure, especially when the first scene we did with him, I was like, oh, he's got weight. Like he's it feels like I'm watching him do a modern take on a performance he would do in a Stuart Gordon movie. But the funny thing is, I've learned over the years that, and this is going to sound like I'm name dropping, but I'm not. I had to direct Mark Hamill once, and it was for something that wasn't, I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't high stakes. It was something hosty. He was hosting something, and I was just directing the interstitials. So it was all in a prompter, and there wasn't much acting as much as hosting, but there was a little bit of a scripted element to the thing. And I remember on that day, and this was just, a year or two ago, kind of thinking, am I going to be nervous? I wasn't nervous leading up to it, but I thought, but when I get there and see Mark Hamill, am I going to be nervous? And the truth is, there was a split second of, I hope this guy listens to me. I hope he takes me seriously. But before I could even really examine that anxiety, he said out loud, hey, just so you know, I want to be directed. So don't tell me that the take is okay if you don't like it. Don't tell me we should move on if you don't think we got it. And I was like, fuck yeah, man. No, I'll direct you. So you learn pretty quickly that even the most intimidating of figures or people with a lot of experience, they still need a director. That's the director's job. And you lose that anxiety pretty quick. I remember I directed Bruce Campbell too, and people had even kind of warned me ahead of time. They were like, he's a salty dog. I was like, okay. And then he was nothing but delightful. He just wanted to know that I knew what I was doing and that I knew what I wanted him to do. And then once those boundaries were established, he was in it, you know?
I think that's one of the greatest qualities that you have, is someone who knows what they want when they get into it. Even if the editing process is something different, but like when you go into this project and you're working with someone, you know what you're doing. And I've been lucky to watch a lot of your other movies too. You also did The Mother of Invention, which is another fantastic film, along with Worm, two of my favorite films that are indie based that are fantastic. And if you haven't seen it, find it and go watch it, and trust me, they're freaking fantastic. It's one of the many things that blew my mind, because you're not just this wonderful content creator, you're an excellent filmmaker. And so each one of these movies, you're always taking a unique stance and you're leveling up every time. And Onyx feels like that level up between all of those movies too, not only from a visual standpoint, but from a story standpoint and a weaving standpoint. So what was kind of one of the big takes of you, Andrew Bowser, and your skill set? Like, what's one of the big things that you worked on and wanted to take with you? Like, oh, the writing is the thing that I have to really focus to get this right. Or is it, I have to hit these spectacles like the puppets or the great, the use of all the wonderful practical effects? What did you bring to Onyx that, from all your experience, that you wanted to focus on for this film to make it next level for you?
I mean, to be honest, it took everything that I've experienced on all of the shoots, every music video, every piece of branded content, everything that I've done over the last couple of years, 15 years, informed all of the decisions I made on the Onyx set. And I remember saying at one point to a friend over the phone while we were filming, I said, I don't know how people go from not directing much to directing their first feature or getting a large feature after only making a small indie, because I have only been able to be prepared to make Onyx with all of these little stepping stones, short films, music videos, experimental features, etc. It took all of my faculties operating to make the decisions I needed to make over the course of any given shoot day on Onyx. I'd say the biggest thing that I learned is, and I think this is for any director, is communication and what you have to communicate to specific department heads to get what you want. Because you might speak in mood, but they want to hear color. You might speak in I might say, I want this to, my DP and I get into this all the time, because I'll say, well, it makes me think of Gremlins. And he's like, yes, but what about it? Is it the light? Is it the canted angle? And so you get better at communicating the specifics that each department head needs to hear in order to get what's in your head out there, because we don't all speak the same language. And my sound designer and I have the same thing, where he'll say, so what are just the reference points right away for this film? And I'll give them to him. And he'll get back to me and he'll say, there's really nothing interesting from a sound perspective in any of those films you sent me. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm talking Fright Night. I'm talking Night of the Creep, And he's like, hey, no, but listen, I'm asking for sound. Like, you're talking about the overall vibe. But when you actually parse through it all, there isn't much going on. And so I've learned over the years to speak to each department in a way that I think makes sense for them. And that's exciting, because then that gap between what's in your head and what winds up on screen gets smaller and smaller. And that's why I think directors work with a lot of the same people over and over again, because they get to a place where I can say one thing and they get it right away, instead of this. Is it this? No, I mean, like this,
Yeah.
And that was, you couldn't have shot this movie in the 20 something days that we shot it in if the communication hadn't have been tight.
Wow.
And clear.
That's tremendous.
Wow.
Yeah. We don't have a lot of time left. This has been a fantastic film. it's something that people from different generations can enjoy, mostly millennials like myself, because I got all
Yeah.
the cartoon references, the TV references, the superheroes and all that good stuff. It's all in there for us.
Yeah.
But did the film turn out exactly how wonderful you would hoped it did? And if you could go back and talk to your younger self, little Andrew Bowser, watching his TV shows on his 30-inch square television, what would you say to him if you had an opportunity to do that?
Well, I do think the film turned out to be exactly what I wanted it to be. Of course, there are little aesthetic decisions that I wish I could tweak, or something I could have taken a little more time to finesse. But honestly, now having watched it as many times as I've watched it with festival audiences and even the theatrical audience when it was out in October, I don't feel like a pang of frustration around those things. Even they have kind of fallen into being okay, because I feel like the whole is mostly what I wanted to execute. So even those little things that might have bumped me during the edit don't bump me anymore.
Mm.
And I think, honestly, talking to my teenage self or my kid self, I thought about that while we were filming. I thought, I just want it to be a movie that, yeah, I know we don't really have VHS anymore, but that someone would discover on VHS and it would mean something to them. And so I just wanted it to mean something to the people that it would mean something to. And I think the little me, Andy, or Andy Panda, as my mother would call him, would be really proud that I made something that feels like the right spirit is in place for that relationship to happen. I think it will find the people that need that movie, and that will get that movie. And so I think Andy would be really proud. And there's just so much of my DNA, and that's thanks to the Kickstarter backers. If it hadn't have been partially financed through Kickstarter, I wouldn't have had the I don't know, I wouldn't have had the ownership over the project to do everything I wanted to do with it. And so because it was partially crowdfunded, it really is, all the decisions are mine and my creative team, my producer Olivia, my DP Dan, and my producers Clark and Mobley. We didn't really have to answer to anyone else. So that is a dream.
Absolutely.
I think one of the best things, and I know we're running out of time, but I do want to say one of the best things about this movie, aside from you hitting the tone and the style, and you're right, without your control, I don't think Onyx would have worked in any other hands, because it just would have been awkward. But one of the best things that you did was not only elevate the character from just these newsreels and review shows, but you injected one of the best qualities, which is sincerity, which I know that has been said multiple times in multiple reviews, because that's true. And that's really hard to do, especially with something like this. That's what makes it different than what we see. You're not harking on the same jokes. You're giving us something, a new face. So were you very aware of that as you were going into this? How were you very aware of, how do I move Onyx to the next level, but also not depart too far? Because that double-edged sword, that balance is, I find, the hardest thing, especially with something like this, where you've been doing it for years. Everybody who knows it, and yet somehow you found the next level.
I think that is also, that only occurred because it has been 10 years of doing the character. I think if I had made an Onyx movie 5 years ago, it might, not that it wouldn't have been sincere, but I might have been more willing to kind of temper that sincerity, or put the heart to the side, just for the maybe having more gags and having bigger jokes. Like, I think I might have been more concerned about making it something that worked on a broader level. Whereas I've been with the character for 10 years now, so I need to keep him layered and interesting to myself in a way that we had someone watched the cut early on, and it's close to the cut that we have now, that said, this movie needs to be 88 minutes long. It needs to be Ace Ventura. It needs to be gag, gag, gag. I don't care about the ensemble. I don't care about the villain, and he really wanted me to recut this thing to be the opposite of what you just said. And I knew enough about the character and my relationship to it to push back on that. And then the irony is, we got that criticism prior to getting into Sundance. When we got accepted to Sundance, two of the programmers told us that what they responded to most was the heart and the sincerity and the love that the film has for all of its characters, and not just Onyx. So it's a lesson in kind of sticking to your guns, but I don't know that I would have stuck to my guns if I hadn't been doing the character for so long and become so aware of what I liked about him and what I wanted to investigate about him and how to kind of make him stay interesting to me is what revealed those layers and kind of pushed that sincerity and that heart to the center of the film.
Absolutely. Andrew, congrats on all your success. Onyx the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls is now available on Screambox. You can also rent it or buy it on iTunes as well on Prime Video. Congrats, my friend. Best of luck to you on your future endeavors, and we can't wait to see what's next for Onyx the Fortuitous.
Thank you. And I have to say a thank you, especially to, well, both of you and to Brian for helping me keep the character alive over the years, because he's been a huge part of keeping that character alive so we could even get to this point. So thank you.
Honor and a pleasure. Honor and a pleasure all the time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Go see the movie.
Marcus Trillbury can't catch a break.
Order up, number 46.
At his work, he gets no respect.
What, Marcus? I was just wondering if you got my new name tag in yet? Because this says Marquay Dickberry.
At his home, he gets no love.
I could understand if your father was still in the house, but this is Tom, your stepfather, and my lover.
And with his friends, oh, he doesn't have any. But all he needs is a chance.
Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations.
I've been invited to Bartok's mansion to take part in a once-in-a-lifetime ritual in which he, along with 5 of his most loyal followers, will attempt to raise the spirit of the ancient demon, Abaddon.
You're not going anywhere until you scoop that litter box.
Now he's off on an adventure.
Is the ritual going to work? Shall we lay to the talisman?
All 5 are present. The Queen, the Viking, a werewolf, the witch, and you are the Virgin.
What the
When it's the end of the world, a new hero must rise.
Patty Slinger?
When in doubt, skewer it out.
In the grimoire, after the ritual of Abaddon, there was a warning. Beware the prophecy of Fortuitous one.
What?
What?
Marcus Trillbury and the
I'd really love it if you called me Onyx the Fortuitous.
Onyx the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls.
Oh, hey, what are y'all doing in here?